Good morning, folks. It's great to see everyone joining us. I'm very pleased to welcome you here today. I'm Nick Allardice. I'm the CEO of Change.org. I know we have a number of staff on the call, as well as a number of amazing activist leaders on different issues. It's really, really great to have you all here. Our mission at Change is to empower people everywhere to create the change they want to see. And every month, millions and millions of folks rely on Change.org to spotlight an issue, to mobilize support, and to win change. And I'm really excited that in this new Changemaker series, that we'll be having a bunch of conversations with the movement leaders who are part of Change.org Plus, a new product from Change.org that equips change makers with the infrastructure, support, and resources they need to really amplify and accelerate their impact. Now, before we get into the substance of the conversation, I wanted to note we're going to be making space for questions from everyone who joined after I have an initial chat with Lauren. So please feel free to put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. Our guest today is Lauren Taylor. I'm so excited for you all to hear from her today. We had a chance to chat last week, and she's got such great stories and such great insights to share with everyone. Lauren's a management consultant, an entrepreneur, and she's been a leader of change her whole life across issues of biodiversity, climate, and human trafficking. Lauren has been working with and using Change.org since 2009 and recently launched and led an incredibly successful petition focused on biodiversity and the role that Home Depot can play in protecting biodiversity. Lauren, I'm really excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
Your resume, activism, and longevity as a change user are incredibly impressive. It's one of the many reasons you were selected to join Change Plus, and we're really excited to have you utilizing and taking advantage of and helping us co-design, essentially, the new product there. Maybe we could start. Could you tell us more about the petition that's live right now and what led you to launch it?
Sure. So my work with invasives goes back to 2014. I did a volunteer project down in Chile and was participating in helping build the new Patagonia National Park. And one of the tasks that they asked us to do was to remove invasive species from the park. And this really exposed me to the issue. And I came back to the United States, and I'm an avid hiker, began to realize how broadly spread this issue was. But it really wasn't until COVID. And of course, we were all restricted in our activities, and I started spending a lot of time visiting my parents and spending time in my dad's woods, and looked around and realized that so many of the trees were covered in invasive vines that were killing them. And these were all garden escapees. None of these plants had been planted in the woods, so they had come from neighboring properties. And the more I looked, the more different invasive species that I found. So I started joining Facebook groups to learn how to ID these. I got involved in, turned out there was a Virginia invasive species working group that had been commissioned by the legislature. And I participated in that and submitted comments. And that ended up being a 6-month, very disappointing look at the legislative process and how it didn't accomplish anything. Virginia is a very pro-business state. The nursery lobby, the agricultural, it's very, very strong. And they refused to give an inch in terms of what they were willing to do to educate people, specifically consumers, about buying and planting invasive plants. And so the retail trade just wanted to continue to sell them. And after reading the final report and being really so disappointed with the process and seeing how disgusted the environmental groups were, I said, okay, it's time for consumer pressure. And I knew from my experience with Change.org that we could win this campaign with a change petition. And my next step was to really dig in and do the research and find out how big is this problem, exactly how many invasive species are there currently listed officially in all 50 states, how many of these are being sold in the retail trade, and how many of these is Home Depot actually carrying. And choosing Home Depot because they're the largest share of the market. And so um, built a giant spreadsheet because this information is all out there, but it's not easily accessible or in the format that I needed to be able to document everything, have my I's dotted and my T's crossed so nobody could come back and refute the data. So it took about 5 months of research. And then when I was ready to write, I researched winning petitions on Change.org and looked for a model that had achieved victory against a consumer retail store, and used that as my framework for how do I write an effective plea. There was a woman who petitioned Walmart to stop selling fake service dog vests, and she won her petition, and rightfully so. The supporters of this petition, we all feel it's very unethical for a retailer, any retailer, to be selling plants that are listed as invasive species. And so once I had all of that, we launched the petition June 17th last year, and we just went over the 75,000 bar in terms of signatures, and I'm really excited about that and still climbing.
I mean, huge congratulations for all that success and momentum. And there are a couple of things I love in what you just said there. First of all, I think many people kind of think that the solution to change on any issue, like it has to sit with the legislature or with kind of the political system. And I love how you looked at that, made an effort, and said, okay, if that's not going to work, there's an alternative pathway here. We can go down the corporate route. And that's the first thing. I think the second is what an incredible amount of groundwork you did to just like make sure that you had the kind of bulletproof platform. That's, I think, a really important lesson to kind of draw out. And then finally being inspired by others and going out and looking at what's working out there, because there's a huge amount of success that I think folks can draw on in helping identify what is going to work and how to be successful. So I love those kind of takeaways for you in getting to where you've got. But you've done a lot of activism over the years, and not always on invasive species. Like you've also done a bunch of work on human trafficking and a whole bunch of different areas. And this work is often really thankless. I'm really curious, like what is it that's at the core of your motivation here? What is it that keeps you going?
Well, there are a number of issues that I become passionate about, but what I really look for is where is there an issue that I can get involved and actually make an impact with my skill set, with my background. I want to be a voice for the voiceless, and whether it is displaced native plants and wildlife, or whether it is babies and children who are being impacted by endocrine disruptors, toxic chemicals, or whether it's children being trafficked. So in 2008, I was watching the movie Trade, and I was quite literally launched off the couch at the end of that film and over to my computer and what can I do? How can I help? Kind of not on my watch. And I wasn't really equipped to break down doors and rescue children from brothels or sex slavery. But what I saw at that time was there was a tremendous gap in terms of an umbrella organization unifying the movement worldwide. There weren't enough resources at that time to be duplicating or wasting efforts. And there was a lot of duplication going on. Right hand wasn't talking to the left hand. And I knew with my tech background, my database background, that was something that I could have an impact. And at the time I was signing Change.org petitions. I became acquainted with Change.org through my nonprofit communications work. Came across Amanda Clore, an early Change employee who was blogging at that time about human trafficking. We were both in the DC area. And so I reached out to Amanda and invited her to be a board member. I founded an organization called End Slavery Now, and we built the largest global tech platform to unite the movement leaders in the human trafficking movement. And so we grew and we attracted the attention of a Clinton Global Initiative of philanthropists. And he came along and said, you need to grow this even bigger. And he offered to fund our work, which we did. And we launched another project, the Free Project, which was a nationwide group of college student chapters, gave them a framework for combating human trafficking, educating their students about human trafficking. And so we grew that. And then after about 4 years, we gifted that platform to the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center, which is a Smithsonian affiliate museum. And they have taken it and run with it and grown it from there.
What a journey. It's what an extraordinary set of achievements along the way as well. And I can really see how some of those learnings from that early work on human trafficking you're kind of taking forwards to the work that you're doing now as well. I'm curious, what was it that led you to Change.org, to kind of identify Change.org as a place to affect change? And what led to your kind of decision-making to choose it as the kind of core strategy or tactic for the work you're doing?
Just following change and learning a lot from working with Amanda, but following the victory stories over the years was so incredibly inspiring. And at the end of every year, there would be kind of a wrap-up video that would show some of the most significant victories. And some of them just really moved me to tears. And I saw what was possible, particularly with consumer pressure. And one of the ones that I remember, and I always get very emotional when I think about this. There was a documentary movie several years ago called Bully that was about bullying and suicide in junior highs and high school. And when the documentary was released, the Motion Picture Association of America gave it an R rating. And that meant that it couldn't be shown to the children that it was made for the children who needed to see it. And there was a young girl, I think she was 12 or 13, and she used Change.org to take on the Motion Picture Association of America. And their initial position was, nobody tells us how to rate films. We don't back down to anybody. We don't bow to pressure. And she was persistent. I get chills just telling the story. She was so persistent, and she got herself on Good Morning America and other shows across the country. And, hundreds of thousands of signatures rolled in, and they backed down and they changed the rating. And Bully was then able to be shown to the students it was really made for, and to have a huge impact in schools. And that was just one of the most amazing victories I think I've ever seen. It just moved me really, really deeply. So yeah, I knew Change could get this done.
I remember that campaign really well, and it's so powerful. And what I love about that is kind of recognizing that any individual campaign can have an impact in a narrow way on the specific issue that it's focused on. But it can have this incredible halo effect of kind of inspiring others and showing what's possible. I think in the way that maybe the Bully campaign did that for you, I'm confident that that's something you're doing for others as well.
Yeah, the ripple effect is huge.
Yeah, love the ripple effect. Yeah. So as you and I have talked about, Change.org Plus, this new product from Change.org that, our goal is to help entrepreneurial activists and community leaders like you with everything you need to be more impactful, more sustainably, with less work. And part of what gets us up in the morning is to just understand, what are the pain points? What are the things that have been great? What are the things that have been hard in your journey? And so I would love it. Could you take a moment to tell us about a time where things have been hard and what helped in that moment?
Yeah, couple things. Well, one of the biggest pain points is getting the attention of the media. And I write press releases, but doing the media outreach, pitching to the media is not my strong suit. And so it's one of the things that I really look forward to getting, now that we've really hit some significant bars, getting some increasing assistance from Change and the Change Plus program in doing that. it's intimidating to reach out to the media as a non-media person. It's also, there's a concern with, we are talking about a retailer who happens to be a massive advertiser, and there's the concern has been voiced more than once from people following the petition. How do you affect change? Leaning on media pressure when they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them, right? You've got this really massive advertiser in Mexico, the US and Canada and across North America. So that's always in the back of my mind, that we have to roll this petition forward to the point where it is, you can't ignore it any longer. It is a news story. And how high that bar is, I don't know. For this particular issue, I've studied where does it hit for other issues, but we're getting there. We're getting closer to where the media cannot ignore how passionate people are. The consumers just don't want this to happen. And I would say another pain point. I mean, it is. It's not a roller coaster. But it's not a. It's not this straightforward upward curve of
Not
growth.
linear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not linear. What my coach, and it's not even exponential so far. Like, my coach has really helped me understand that it's more of a step function. So you get a nice rush and a spike, and then it sort of tables for a little bit, and then another rush and a spike, and it tables for a little bit. And that really helped with my personal um, energy levels and any moments of feeling fatigue, like, oh, feels like we've stalled out, is this just going to kind of crumble? And he assured me that no, that isn't the pattern, that it does, but you need to be prepared for it's going to reach a certain level and then kind of quiet down for a little bit. Like, we certainly saw a quieting down during the holidays, and that's to be expected. So and then I think for me personally, a pain point is I'm a deeply private person. And one of the things in the very beginning, Change really helped me with, my coaches helped me with, is getting outside my own small circle of influence. And, I'm very familiar with social media, but learning how to use it more impactfully. And I'm just going to say shameless promotion, right? I mean, that's really what it takes, is being willing to go on Reddit, go on Quora, go back to tweeting, which is not something that I normally do a whole lot of. Join all kinds of groups all over Facebook, invasive species groups, native plant groups, sending out pitches to all the native plant societies in the United States. I mean, you just have to be willing your reach. And my coaches have been fantastic helping me do that.
You should totally give a shout out to the folks that you've been working with, because I'm sure that some of them are here today.
Yeah, Ben Bosis has been fantastic, and Nico Dene has been fantastic. Jennifer has been great. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of Jennifer's last name, but it looks like Prestigiacomo, if I'm my weak Italian. And early on, in the very beginning, I had a coach, I'm going to say his name was Max, kind of handed off over to Ben, but Max was giving me a lot of coaching through text, and that really helped us hit our early targets. That first 1,000, that first 5,000, that first 10,000 is really kind of a rush, and you're like, yeah, people care about this. We're going to do this. We're not going to let go.
Yeah, shout out to everyone who's helped Lauren along the way. Yeah, it makes a big difference, and I think it's really wonderful to hear how much of a difference that's made for you, Lauren, because it's the work that many on the team are doing every day, but it really means the world to hear how much that's valued. I asked about a moment of challenge and what the pain points are. I want to hear the flip side as well. Like, can you tell us about a high or a moment of joy, excitement, or triumph along the way?
Yeah, I just had one last week that was so exciting. So people really are very deeply passionate about this. The people who know about it already, even more so, taking up the mantle and very excited about this petition and hopeful for it. But random strangers have reached out to me and said, how can I help? What can I do? What, skill sets do I have? And so like, I have not been a TikTok user, for example, but there are several people in this space who are out there making educational and informative and passionate pleas through TikTok. And so someone will reach out to me and say, hey, I made a TikTok about your petition. I went to Home Depot and I filmed all the invasive plants and I put this up, and this person's got thousands of followers or tens of thousands of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers. And so they're expanding my reach, exponentially beyond what I can do. And they've made really high quality content. And I get little happy tears. I'm just so excited because I thought to myself, gee, do I need to learn how to make TikTok videos? And like that, I just don't feel like that's the best use of my time right now. But to have people just showing up and doing it of their own accord. I had, somebody reach out to me and say, hey, how can I help you pitch to the media? Another person just reached out to me a couple of weeks ago who runs a website called beplant.org, which is, he's starting out with North America, but wants to expand globally, but an informative botanical website. And he gets, tens of thousands of hits on a monthly basis. And he's like, how can I promote the petition through this? And so, yeah, it's just the outpouring of support when the native plant societies write to me and say, we're endorsing your petition, it's just, how can we help you promote this? It's really incredible. It really is. I'm not alone in this. And I needed that. I really needed that.
That's really wonderful to hear. And I think not uncommon. I think for many of the folks that we talk to doing this work, it can feel lonely at times. But once there's a bit of a crowd starting to build behind a petition or a campaign, there are so many people who are passionate about advancing it and people who can contribute in all sorts of different ways. So I love to hear how that's showing up for you, and really glad to hear that that's a powerful thing for you as well. So you were one of the first members of Change.org Plus, and our kind of initial vision for that product is to help leaders like yourself with a series of pain points that we've heard over time. That's the type of coaching that you were describing, where you have someone alongside you to help navigate the ups and downs of a campaign over time, but not just one campaign, like a series of campaigns in the kind of lifetime of making change on an issue, helping get media or helping grow the distribution of a campaign so that it reaches a larger audience, and also financial resources as well to be able to kind of power the impact that you're making. I'm curious to hear, like, what is it that has been most valuable so far, and what are you excited for when you think about that vision of problems that we're trying to solve for you? What is it that you think is going to make the most difference for you?
Well, I'm very grateful for the coaching specifically. I try to send out updates, and my coach Ben has been great. Ben and Nico both have been great about guiding me about frequency of updates, what's the reach on those. Ben has sent emails out targeting specific change users who are passionate about this subject, and we always see a great spike after that happens. They helped me with keeping the content fresh. And they were very supportive when I came up with the idea of building a dedicated website to kind of have a campaign headquarters central. I really wanted to send a message that we're not backing down. This issue is not going away. And so we were able to put a lot of more in-depth information about the movement for people who want to learn more, and even more action steps of what they can do besides just signing the petition. But I'm very excited about this brand new program that you've launched in terms of my ability to fundraise to cover some of the expenses. I mean, I have spent money out of pocket to do this, and that is definitely thankless. Although it will all be worth it when we win the campaign, and I know we will win the campaign. And we've talked about strategy, having the coaches there to confirm my strategy about some of the pushback that we get about the petition is, why are you only targeting Home Depot? Why? What about Lowe's? What about Walmart? What about these other garden centers? And for me, I was very clear that you have to choose a petition is successful when you choose one target. rather than trying to spread it broadly across an entire industry. And so we opted for choosing Home Depot, which is the largest together. Home Depot and Lowe's control about 49% of the garden center sales. And so Home Depot really is, I've said this, I'm quoted on saying this, but they really are the 800-pound gorilla in here. And so getting confirmation that starting at the top is the right strategy, and then having a success there, and then launching additional campaigns and just, keep going, keep going, keep going, and including the growers, right, and the distributors. And until this is done, until every last invasive plant is out of the retail trade, we're going to keep going.
I love the level of determination and confidence you have there. I would not want to be Home Depot in this situation. I think you've got them. You'll get them. You started touching on the future, and we're kind of getting close to the end of the time where I'll be asking questions, and I want to give another plug to everyone on the call to ask questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, because I'll be turning to some of those in a moment. Before I do, when you think about the future, like, what do you see? Like, where are you going with this movement and the activism that you're taking forwards?
Well, it's tied very closely to the native plant movement. There is so much research coming out. In fact, there was a new paper released just the other day about in terms of the biodiversity crisis. I think many people are familiar that we're in the 6th wave of extinction, and this is all tied to the climate crisis as well. So all of these issues are interrelated. If invasive vines are taking out our tree canopy, that's going to have a massive impact on greenhouse gases and absorption. The loss of biodiversity, our entire food chain crumbling underneath us, right? And it all starts with plants. They're the basis of the food chain. And the need for more native seed gathering, processing, collection, sold. So I've become very involved in the movement in terms of restoration of habitat and protecting wildlife and wild places. And all of that is tied into continuing to launch petitions that are related to this issue, because there is no planet B, right? This is it. This is our ride through space, and we have to protect it if we want any kind of a future whatsoever.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I know that you've kind of lined up or imagined what the next wave of campaigns will look like with after Home Depot, and I know that that's going to make a huge contribution over time. It's like one after another, it's kind of chipping away. And I think that's one of the other really, I think, inspiring takeaways, is that when people look at these big issues like loss of biodiversity or invasive species, it can feel overwhelming. And what I love about what you've done is you've kind of broken it down into these very manageable chunks, and one after another will be chipping away. So yeah, I think that's a really great lesson.
You'll be seeing my face for a long time at Change.
Yes. So before I turn to some of the questions that are coming in on the Q&A, I wanted to give you a chance to ask me any questions as well, Lauren. So how about I turn it over to you?
Yeah, so the biggest question on my mind is hearing more about what Change is up to. How can Change help me pull this across the finish line? I know I've seen what you've been able to do for other campaigns in the past. What's cooking right now? Talk to me about, let's get this done and move on to the next one, the next one, the next one.
Yeah, so I think we started to talk about a couple of them earlier, but there's two things that are front of mind for me right now. And one is on the financial resources piece, which you kind of spoke to as a challenge, but something that we're working on is not just the ability to fundraise, but to really have us do a bunch of the work to kind of cross-promote that and help you find those kind of donations and support from others to essentially build a war chest for your campaign, and also to allow you to invest the time that you do. Because I think something we very commonly hear from the people who use Change.org is that they're passionate to invest more time in their campaign, but it's hard. Like, there's sacrifices involved, and And so we're trying to make sure that the financial resources are there, not just to invest in the tactics, but also to be able to sustainably invest the time, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we can't rely on just like endless self-sacrifice to be able to drive that. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing that I'm really excited about is there's, right now there are 100 other people just like you in Change.org Plus who are amongst some of the most inspiring, incredible change makers that I've ever seen. And at the moment, you're working with us and the coaches on the Change.org team, and I'm really excited to start connecting the Change Plus users together, because I think there is a lot of incredible insight, strategy, ideas, connections in that group of people that I think could be incredibly powerful for your campaign and could help you take that to another level. And in the same way that I know you could do the same for others as well. And so that's something we're working on right now, is trying to connect that group of people together in a way that amplifies everything that you're able to achieve.
That's incredibly exciting. Yeah, to be able to reach out with and share resources and tips with other super users. That's wow. That's super exciting to hear about.
Lauren, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all your tireless leadership and advocacy, not just on this campaign, but over many years. You truly are a Change.org super user who has been alongside us at every step of the journey. Is there anything that you would say before we close out? Any messages you want to leave us with?
I would just say thank you to you, Nick, and Jennifer, and Ben, and for inviting me to, first of all, have this conversation, but also be a Change Plus user. It's an honor, really, truly an honor and a privilege to have been identified as making an impact already, even though we're not across the finish line. And the other thing, that I really want to tell you and every member of your team, from the bottom of my heart, I am one of your #1 fans. I deeply, deeply, deeply believe in the change, and I get really weepy, just the change that this platform, this brilliant use of technology has been able to create for 15 or some years now, 15, 16, 17 years now. It's extraordinary. There are so many things that have happened that could not have happened without Change.org. And so when somebody says to me, oh, petitions, are a waste of time, or Change.org petitions don't do anything, I always cite them. Here's the link, here's the link, here's the link, here's the example. Change made a difference here, it made a difference here, it made a difference here. Just be so proud of what you're doing. I mean, truly, the change you're making in the world is staggering. It's really staggering. And I owe it all to you guys. Without you guys, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing. So thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart.
Lauren, you're not going to leave a dry eye in the house. Thank you for all you've done and for all you're doing. We're here alongside you, and it's been such a joy to have you here today. All right. Thank you, everyone. It's really great to have you here. Looking forward to more of these, and there'll be more opportunities to connect with Lauren in the future as well. We'll close out the call here. Goodbye, folks.